Welcome back to the deep dive. And hey, if you're looking for more great info like this, distilled down, easy to digest, make sure you visit Mind Expansion Daily. That's really where you'll find content just like this deep dive. While you're listening, maybe show some support. Please like and subscribe to Mind Expansion Daily. It really helps us out. And if you genuinely appreciate the analysis we're bringing you, well, consider buying us a coffee. There's a link right down there in the description. We also have a bit of a challenge for you today. As you listen to our breakdown of this really interesting topic, drop a comment. Let us know if you agree or disagree with our take on the core points. And one last thing, we're really trying to grow our worldwide reach. So tell us where you're tuning in from. Just drop your location in the comments. Love seeing where everyone is. Okay, let's get into it. We're unpacking that, well, sometimes quirky, but actually pretty serious reaction some people have. Just one sip of alcohol, and suddenly, boom, lobster red.
That really visible change, that intense flush, that's alcohol flush reaction, or AFR. A lot of people probably know it more casually as Asian glow. And our mission today really is to dig deeper than just, oh, my face is red. We want to unpack the science behind this genetic red flag.
Absolutely, because it affects a huge number of people. The sources say up to 560 million globally. That's massive. So the big question is, why do some people get this immediate fiery redness, maybe feel unwell, while others seem to drink, well, pretty much carefree?
And right off the bat, the most critical thing for listeners to grasp is this. That flush, it isn't just cosmetic. It's not just, oh, embarrassing or you're a lightweight. It's a really clear physical signal that your metabolism isn't working right when it comes to alcohol. Specifically, your body is struggling to process it, and that leads to a buildup of something quite toxic, acetaldehyde.
Acetaldehyde, okay.
And that buildup is what drives the symptoms and, crucially, the long-term health risks we need to talk about.
Okay, let's start with what people actually feel, because it happens fast, right? The sources describe that main symptom. Everyone sees the facial flushing, the warm spreading, often down the neck, chest. And it can happen, within a minute or up to an hour?
Yeah, the timing varies, but it's often surprisingly quick. 1 to 60 minutes is the typical range. But like you said, it's not just the redness. People might dismiss other things as just being drunk fast, but there's more.
Right. What else are we talking about beyond the obvious flush?
Well, it can feel like a full body thing for some. People report things like hives, which is definitely uncomfortable, and pretty rapid nausea. Then there are the more systemic reactions, which are definitely more concerning. Things like asthma getting worse suddenly, blood pressure dropping, those throbbing headaches people sometimes get.
Headaches, okay.
And there was a key finding mentioned heart rates. They can spike significantly during the reaction, like an average of 15%. That's your body under stress.
15%, wow. And I saw mentions of, mental confusion, even blurred vision. That sounds pretty intense.
It can be, yes. Those neurological symptoms are definitely part of the picture for some individuals.
It really hits home when you read about someone testing it themselves, feeling that tingling warmth in 10 minutes, full flush and nausea by 20. It just shows how fast it hits. And it doesn't take much, does it? We're not necessarily talking about heavy drinking here.
Not at all. Small amounts of alcohol can trigger it. Even sometimes certain fermented foods or interactions with particular medications, the threshold can be really low.
So with a reaction that strong and fast, people must assume it's an allergy, right? Like, I'm allergic to alcohol.
That's a super common misconception, but it's important to clarify. AFR is technically alcohol intolerance. It's not a true allergy.
Okay, what's the difference there?
An allergy usually involves your immune system reacting to a protein.
Yeah.
But here, the cause is purely metabolic. It's about the body's internal machinery, basically, failing to properly break down a toxin that's generated when you process ethanol.
Gotcha. So it's a processing problem, not an immune attack.
Precisely. It's about that toxic acetaldehyde buildup because the cleanup crew isn't working fast enough.
Let's talk about that cleanup crew then, the metabolic machinery. Can you walk us through the normal process, how it's supposed to work?
Sure. So normally it's a two-step process. Step 1, you drink alcohol, ethanol. An enzyme called ADH, alcohol dehydrogenase, converts that ethanol into acetaldehyde.
Okay, and that's the toxic stuff we keep mentioning.
That's the culprit, exactly. Acetaldehyde. It's actually a known carcinogen, and it's what causes the flushing, the nausea, all those nasty immediate effects.
Right. So what's step 2, the cleanup?
Step 2 is where another enzyme, the critical one here, ALDH2, dehydrogenase 2, is supposed to jump in. Its job is to quickly take that toxic acetaldehyde and convert it into something harmless, acetate, basically vinegar, which your body can easily get rid of.
So people without the flush, have a really efficient ALDH2 enzyme doing its job properly, fast cleanup.
Correct. Their cleanup crew is working at full speed.
But for the, 560 million people with AFR, something's wrong with that ALDH2 enzyme. What's the specific genetic issue?
It comes down to a specific variation, a mutation, in the gene that provides the instructions for making that ALDH2 enzyme. The common one is called the ALDH2-STAR2, ALDH22 variant.
ALDH22.
Yes. And you can think of this mutation, specifically it's an E487K substitution if you want the detail, as basically throwing a wrench in the works. It severely messes up the enzyme's ability to break down acetaldehyde.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting, because the level of impairment depends on your genes, right? Whether you got one copy of this variant or two.
Exactly. It makes a huge difference. We talk about being heterozygous or homozygous for the variant.
Can you maybe give us an analogy? How different is the enzyme activity?
Okay, let's imagine ALDH2 is like a super efficient garbage disposal unit designed specifically to obliterate acetaldehyde, that toxic waste. If you're homozygous, meaning you inherited 2 copies of this faulty ALDH22 gene, one from each parent, well, your garbage disposal is completely broken. The sources say essentially 0% effective activity. Acetaldehyde piles up instantly, severely.
0%. Wow. Okay.
Now, if you're heterozygous, you got 1 normal gene and 1 faulty ALDH22 gene. Your garbage disposal still kind of works, but it's incredibly slow. It's operating at maybe, 17 to 38% efficiency compared to normal?
Only 17 to 38%.
Right, so it's just too slow. It can't keep up with the acetaldehyde being produced, especially if you drink more than a tiny bit. So the toxin still hangs around long enough to cause the flush, and importantly, contribute to those long-term risks. That massive drop in enzyme activity is the whole story behind the flush.
That is a dramatic difference. Explains why the reaction is so immediate. And looking at the numbers, again, 8% globally, but hugely concentrated in East Asia. Like 30 to 50% of people there carry this.
That's right. The rates are particularly high, as mentioned in the sources, around 45% in Japanese populations, 44% in Chinese, 30% in Koreans. It's incredibly rare in people of European descent, less than 2.5%.
Where did it come from?
The evidence points to it originating in ancient China, probably around 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, and then spreading from there.
And there's that fascinating idea about why it might have spread, the evolutionary angle.
Yes, it's quite compelling. The theory is that this variant, even though it causes unpleasant symptoms, might have actually offered a kind of protection. By making drinking alcohol feel bad quickly, it could have acted as a natural deterrent.
Discouraging regular consumption, maybe reducing alcoholism rates back then?
Potentially, yes. It's a powerful idea, a biological deterrent sort of built right into the genome for those populations. A selective advantage, ironically, born from discomfort.
So moving beyond the immediate discomfort, you stress this isn't just cosmetic. Let's talk about the serious health warnings. This flush is an alarm bell, you said. What happens if people ignore it and drink regularly anyway?
This is where it gets really serious. Chronic exposure to that acetaldehyde, because your body can't clear it properly, has severe long-term consequences.
Okay, lay it on us. What's the biggest, most alarming risk the sources highlight?
The number one risk, the most alarming, is definitely cancer. Specifically, esophageal cancer.
Esophageal cancer.
For people who have this ALDH2 deficiency and drink regularly, their odds of developing esophageal cancer shoot up by 7 times. 7-fold increase.
7 times. That is staggering.
It is. And it makes sense when you remember acetaldehyde is classified as a Group 1 human carcinogen by the World Health Organization. If you can't break it down efficiently, you're essentially bathing the lining of your esophagus in this carcinogen repeatedly over time.
That really puts it into perspective. And it makes you wonder, if the risk is that high and it affects so many people, particularly in certain regions, why isn't this more common knowledge globally?
That's a really important question. Awareness definitely needs to be higher. I think partly because the flush itself is often just seen as, an awkward social thing, not a medical warning sign.
But the risks don't stop at cancer.
Right.
There were other links mentioned.
No, they don't. The chronic acetaldehyde exposure seems to contribute to other systemic problems, too. Cardiovascular issues are a concern links to high blood pressure, potentially increased risk of heart disease and stroke.
Okay.
And then there are the neurocognitive connections, things like elevated lipid peroxides, which indicate oxidative stress throughout the body, and even potential links to Alzheimer's disease risk.
Wow. And mental health, too. I think I saw a study mentioned.
Yes, a 2022 study specifically linked having AFR to a higher risk of developing depression. So it really paints a picture of broad systemic impact. It's not just about a red face or an upset stomach. It's a full spectrum health alert.
So the message is crystal clear. Whether it's a mild tingle or a full-on crimson tide, your body is screaming, "Warning! Toxin buildup." Ignoring that is, well, choosing to tolerate a known carcinogen.
That's essentially it, yes.
Okay, so given these pretty scary warnings, what's the advice? How should people manage this if they have it?
Well, the most straightforward and frankly the medically soundest advice is avoidance, or at the very least, extreme moderation.
Just don't drink.
Pretty much. Since the fundamental issue is that metabolic failure, your body literally cannot process the toxin efficiently. The only guaranteed way to avoid the toxin buildup and the risks is to avoid the source, alcohol.
That makes sense. But what about those hacks people try? You hear about taking antihistamines before drinking to prevent the flush. The sources warned against that, right?
Yeah.
Why is that so dangerous?
Oh, absolutely dangerous. Critically important point. Using things like antihistamines, often H2 blockers like Pepcid AC, might reduce the visible redness, the flushing.
Right, it masks the symptom.
Exactly. It masks the symptom, but it does absolutely nothing about the underlying problem. The toxic acetaldehyde is still building up inside your body. You've basically just silenced the fire alarm while the house is still burning down.
That's a powerful analogy.
The internal damage, the carcinogen exposure, the cardiovascular stress, it's all still happening, whether your face looks red or not. It gives a false sense of security and is really risky behavior. Please don't do it.
Okay, message received. Avoid masking. Are there any minor things that help, like lifestyle tweaks? And how can someone know for sure if they have this genetic variant?
Well, simple things like staying well hydrated or making sure you eat before drinking might slightly lessen the immediate discomfort for some, but again, they don't fix the core genetic issue. They don't reduce the acetaldehyde load significantly. As for confirmation, genetic testing is quite accessible now. Services like 23andMe, for example, often include the ALDH2 gene variants in their reports. That can give people definitive confirmation.
So you can actually find out for sure.
Yes, and knowing for sure empowers you to make properly informed choices about alcohol and protect your health long term.
And looking forward, is there any hope on the horizon? Any potential treatments being researched beyond just avoidance?
There is research ongoing, yes. Scientists are looking into ways to potentially address the enzyme deficiency itself, not just manage symptoms. The sources mentioned the potential for things like gene therapy down the road. It's still future talk, but it offers some hope for a more direct solution someday.
Interesting. Gene therapy. Okay.
So if we boil it all down, what's the ultimate takeaway from this step dive? It's that the alcohol flush, that redness, is way more than just a social awkwardness. It's a clear genetic warning sign. It points directly to that ALDH2 deficiency. And that deficiency means significantly higher long-term health risks if you drink regularly, especially that 7 times greater risk of esophageal cancer. It really mandates awareness and, frankly, caution with alcohol. You have to listen to that signal your body is sending.
That sums it up perfectly. We started looking at something pretty common, maybe even dismissed as funny sometimes, but understanding this one specific genetic glitch really flips the script on how we view a very common social activity like drinking. So the final thought we want to leave you with is this. Consider how knowing about this single gene changes your perception of risk and social norms around alcohol. Really listen to your body's red flag if you experience this. How does this information change things for you? And don't forget, check out Mind Expansion Daily for more deep dives like this one. Like, subscribe, maybe buy us that coffee, and definitely let us know where you're listening from in the comments below. Thanks for joining us.